Hello, guys, and welcome to this episode of the Results Loading Podcast hosted by Prosperous AI. My name is Michael Atkin, and today I'm very excited to say we have our first episode with two founders at once, Wilson Lair and Jerica Kuah, co-founders of Beloga. Guys, thank you so much for being on and joining me today on the pod.
Oh, thank you for having us.
Yeah, certainly, guys. Definitely looking forward to this one. I want to dive right in here. Can you guys talk to me a little bit about the genesis of Beloga? How did you meet in the first place? What initiated the execution of the business plan? And what inspired you to create Beloga? Also curious, what problem are we solving, or what are we most focused on for the users here? Give us the overview of what we're doing right now.
I'm Jerica. I'm the business co-founder of Beloga. I've always been interested in productivity for over 5 to 6 years now. Spent a lot of time researching on different tools, playing with them, understanding the thesis of knowledge management, how it all came about. Did a bit of consulting as well on the side, helping working professionals and entrepreneurs optimize their whole productivity flow. And that really made me kickstart my dream of building a productivity software one day myself. And so here we are, and deciding to work with Wilson on it because he's an expert in search, and we combine both of that to build Beloga.
So on my end, I'm Wilson. Nice to meet you folks. I'm the technical co-founder of Beloga. And prior to this, I've always been a huge fan of search, and helping people find things. I know that might sound a little bit weird, but it always gives me a satisfaction, a bit of satisfaction when folks get that aha moment, when I serve up answers to their questions or anything. And it doesn't have to be, in the software world. So ever since college, I've been taking classes and, been specializing in information retrieval. And then right after college, I joined a startup called Constructor, which is based in San Francisco as well. They're basically powering search for some of the big e-commerce names out there. So Sephora, Lego, and all that. It is through this, process of working with them and all that, I've learned a great deal about search, personalization, recommendation engines, all that sort of stuff. And we decided to marry that together and build Beloga. So combining, Jerica's knowledge management perspective, her experiences with productivity consulting and all that stuff, and then mine on search. We wanted to create the best knowledge management with a very powerful search.
Absolutely. So at what point did you guys come together and say, you know what, we both have unique individual set of skill sets. There's room in the market for an idea that really can utilize what we're good at doing. When did that conversation happen? What did it entail, and what followed afterwards in order to initiate the Beloga process to what it is now?
For sure, I can take that one. So I think to put it into context, we've known each other for over 5 years now. So actually spent a lot of time tinkering with different ideas before settling on Beloga. It all actually started one day where I got a bit annoyed with existing productivity tools. Just because maybe it wasn't just suited for me. So this is not to any productivity tools out there. But yeah, so basically that, and then I was telling Wilson hey, why not let's try with a simple note-taking tool first. So we just wanted to tinker with that whole concept of building something consumer-facing, because Wilson all along have been building in the B2B world. So we wanted a bit something where single users like yourself will be able to use the platform as well. So then after from note-taking, we decided to take it one step up a notch, and just nice, AI came about. And then Wilson was like, oh, there's this really cool, semantic search, retrieval, augmented generation kind of type thing that we could use. So we're like, why not just marry the two together? And that's how Beloga actually came about. So it's through a lot of random tinkerings and just bouncing ideas off each other. And also through the knowledge and insight that I've gotten from the consulting times, where I was helping working professionals and entrepreneurs, really understanding their challenges and what they really want to achieve, that really helped to set the stone for it.
Yeah, absolutely. And you mentioned tinkering and throwing basically spaghetti at the wall and seeing what sticks. I think that's such a special startup element of great ideas, right? I mean, I don't think I've met a founder yet in the year and a half that we've been in the startup world where I haven't spoken with anybody who hasn't had some sort of pivot or sat around and did something similar to what you guys did and say, okay, we have this unique skill set. Both of us have, different skill sets that we can kind of marry together, like you mentioned, and we can see what we can make happen. But how are we going to take this to market? What's going to be the best route? What's our go-to-market going to be? Is it going to be B2B? Is it going to be B2C? And then ultimately, you eventually, as Wilson mentioned earlier, you have that kind of aha idea or aha moment, and then you take off the ground running, and here you are, I believe almost a year later, right? You guys have been around for close to a year at this point.
Yes and no. Yes, because we started off for something else. We started off as like a blogging platform, and then like a
Right.
fact checking thing type thing, and then like what you said earlier, going through the pivot, finding what exactly sticks. So it's a lot of very iterative process, like any startup has to go through. And I would say the current Beloga that you see today, and be able to use today, probably is around 6 months of work. But yeah, here we are.
Yeah, fantastic. No, and it's important because you have to get those market insights first. It's so rare when the first idea that comes to mind that you do try to take to market ends up being what you stick with, because you need to get the market response. Is the market going to respond positively? Is it going to respond negatively? Do we need to tweak some of the features, functionalities, etc.? And then you kind of dial it in and go from there. So no, definitely a tale as old as time, but always glad to have people here in the studio, the virtual studio, if you will, because obviously you guys have found your niche and you figured out what's working, and you're still up and running, which is fantastic. So guys, with that being said, can you walk us through the process of how users can create, organize, and share knowledge on Beloga? Like, what makes it different from other knowledge management tools, if you will?
Wilson.
Sure, I can take this one. So, let me see. So from start to end, let's start with, the very beginning of the process. Just simply visiting our site. We do have a very nice little hotkey thing to get started over there. So you just have to press S, and we'll take you to our main application and all that. And then throughout our application, we provide like an onboarding experience, teaching you, how to use the application and all that stuff. I think it all boils down to like 2 or 3 main concepts here in our application. Like it's all about capturing and searching and creating sort of like this collaborative space. Cool. So yeah, so in terms of capturing, we want to make that really, really seamless as well. So we include like a Chrome extension. We include, a really easy way for you to capture, a single link, multiple links, different things. And essentially what we do is we take, whatever you captured, stored in our knowledge base. You can upload files and all that stuff as well. So we're really trying to be, sort of like multimodal over here. And then after you've, captured all your stuff, we focus a lot on processing them as well, because we know a lot of the other tools out there, like some of the existing ones like Readwise and all that, they don't really provide an avenue for people to process a lot of these information that they've captured. So it usually tends to, just stick around like in a huge library that they probably never get to. And that's also kind of the thing that we want to try to eliminate. So we create a really interesting and unique search experience, I would say, where folks can, use it to search their existing knowledge base, search, Google Drive, Notion, and all that stuff as well through our integrations, and also search the web. And, you can combine all of that together and create sort of this like, answering engine where you can ask for information based on whatever you stored.
Right. So you're essentially bringing in all of your data, all of your applications, into a single interface that you can then interact with, powered by AI, correct?
Yes.
Exactly.
And also, like, I think one more thing is, for example, there's, to be a bit more specific or where things are like, there's 2 type of use cases that we mainly see people using Beloga for. So the first one is more like a continuous learning kind of, creating your knowledge management second brain type thing, where they capture stuff on a daily basis, and then maybe every Sunday to take their time to like, clear out their inbox and then sort out all the relevant where the information has to go. Or there's another use case where we see our research project based type thing happening, where like, for example, you have a project that you want to finish, you want to learn something about, I don't know, augmented reality. You need to write a paper on that. So that's where people first start using Beloga on day 0 as a way to get the orientation of like, what's the outline? How can I, what papers can I look into? What can I research about? And then after that, creating that flow. So using Beloga as like a thought partner in that sense. So there's 2 main ways that we see people use Beloga, and both of their each way have found its own success.
So is it B2C or is it B2B? Because you mentioned somebody writing like a research paper. Would this be you? Would like a college student use Beloga and query their own information and their data from within their localized drive? Or is this something for an operations manager to roll out to their team to help increase efficiency and productivity in the workplace? Or is it both? Where do we stand with that?
I would say, like, with our productivity tool, I think it can both cater to like a consumer level and a like team B2B level, and that's what we are also going for. We are first building it from like a single player approach, just because we realized that if we can make one single player happy, it's easier to multiply that kind of domino effect rather than trying to go on a multiplayer thing without understanding the single player to begin with. So I would say we do have opportunities as well. Even right now, the Beloga that we have abilities to let people collaborate. So like, because how Beloga actually works, the inner working of it is that each workspace that you have on Beloga is actually contextualized and personalized. So what this means is, for example, if you're researching back to that augmented reality example, right? You could put one workspace just for augmented reality. And then every day as you put information in, it kind of like learn and grow with you. So you can even get your teammates to put more information in so that you guys can work on that project together. Or even if you have to do it alone, that's fine too,
Right. So I'd imagine, are you using like vector embeddings and RAG and whatnot to retrieve this information to avoid hallucinations in terms of the output, especially when you could be querying anything from a research paper on your localized drive to maybe the cloud at work? I mean, I would imagine when you're getting into kind of like the nitty gritties of the AI, we're utilizing tools such as, like I said, RAG, embeddings, and whatnot.
Yeah, 100%.
Oh, no, I was just going to reaffirm on that, like we do.
Fantastic. Yeah, and you obviously, as you guys know, you kind of have to at this point in the game with the direction that the AI market's going. And Wilson, specifically for you, curious, being the technical one in of the group, how are you managing building and running the company at the same time? I know a lot of engineers really get lost in the data. Really, that's their one first true love. Is Jerica helping in terms of running the business when you're building? How are you doing that balancing act, if you will, between having to build but also run the company and make sure that she stays alive at the same time?
Ooh, this is a really, really good question, to be honest. Straight up, like, just to be really transparent, it's not easy. It's really not easy to balance.
You're not
things.
the first one to say that.
Jerica's doing a fantastic job though, like, running the business and everything. But of course, like, as co-founders, there are some decisions, like, especially like financial decisions and all that, where we both have to be, on point and have to agree. So yeah, I would say, just be, you really got to practice good time management here. Got to make sure that I split up like the work that I have, if possible, into multiple smaller pieces and all that stuff, to somewhat allow for context switching in between each of these. I know it's coming off pretty technical over here, but that's essentially what I do, so that throughout parts of the day it allows for a lot of co-founder brainstorming as well, business brainstorming, strategizing and all that stuff.
Fantastic. Yeah, no, and we've had a lot of technical co-founders here on the show, and I like asking that question because they have a similar reaction to you. It's like, oh, I want to build, but there's so many things to do. You're glad that you have your co-founder in Jerica to have your back, but it's like, it is a lot. I mean, this startup thing that we signed up for, it requires a lot out of us, and the sooner you learn to figure out time management, the better off you are, and the more longevity you can kind of create, because it is absolutely 100% required in this game. No longer working the 9 to 5, if you will, and putting it off till Monday. Those days are kind of gone, as you guys both know.
100%. Sometimes I would say as well, like, it's not always about building nonstop. I do get that, like, it's really fun to build, especially when, there's a bit of a market pull, people are telling you that there are cool features that they really want, that kind of thing. I've been pulled into that many times already. So, and I've been bitten by that as well. But essentially, I think sometimes it's really important to take a step back and try and figure out, like, if whatever a user is asking for, if that kind of fits in with our goal. If that feature set is what can benefit like other users as well. So there's a lot of prioritization and all that comes into play. Of course, you still want to move fast, but sometimes it's still important not to move too fast and just to essentially building everything that every single person is asking for.
Totally, and that brings me to a question. In terms of the dev, what role is feedback really playing when you guys are going out and still building? I know we're still early-ish. You guys have an MVP. You guys are existing, of course, which is fantastic. And we met in Founders University, which means you're definitely doing something right. But to your point, Wilson, what role is feedback playing? Are you guys taking every ounce of market feedback into account? Are you trying to stay within specified lines that you guys set initially? How are you handling, that, like I said, that market feedback and deciding, hey, this is probably something that can be applicable to everybody, or hey, that's a little bit of a far-fetched request, and we probably aren't going to entertain something like that?
I think that's a really good question and an important one as well. So, to start off, and this has hurt us a bit in the past before, you need to have a goal in mind about what you really want to build for the company. What's your end goal? What's your grand vision out of all this? Because if that's not solid enough, you will be essentially very malleable. You'll be building a bunch of things that different people are asking you to build and all that, and you will end in I think some people call it a pivot hell or something like that. Yeah, trust me, it does happen. So we have to get that sorted first. And then, once that's done, as we get feedback, we treat every single, iteration, like product iteration, as an experiment. So we're, always looking for that feedback, which we try to quantize it in a way, so that we can get some, learnings out of that. But essentially, when we're getting feedback, even for people that's giving us feedback, we do segment them. So we figure out who's our ICP first, based on our grand vision and everything. And then from there, based on the feedback that's given to us, we segment them. And then we try to figure out based on a sort of like a RICE score. It's for product management, but we don't fully adhere to that. I think it's mostly gut feel also.
Sure.
It's not always yeah. So from there, we try and figure out which feedback makes the most sense to us to tackle in the near term, and which is more of a long-term goal, and which is totally outside of our vision in the first place.
Totally, the top-down approach.
I think I just really want to add on that as well about feedback, to echo what Wilson have said. I think what we do recently and has been working well for us is also finding out what is that happy path, because every startup there is a start to finish, right? So when there is a start to finish, maybe you have 5 steps to start to finish, so A, B, C, D, E. So is this feedback that they're giving compartmentalized in step A, or step B of your product that you want them to go through? So from then on, then you can be it'll be easier for you to segmentize it and be okay, today I'll be working on making enhancement on this step A, and then the next day maybe step B, that kind of thing. So because each feature or each feedback that they give, it can, if you don't properly categorize them, you just, like what Wilson said, go crazy for the lack of better word. So it's about knowing where this feedback lie in that happy path. And that's something our advisors really heavily taught us about, nailing down that happy path from day one. That is what will make the user stick and make the user happy.
Absolutely. And I think what he said was pivot hell, which I'm going to use in the future as well. But I've talked to a lot of founders on here, and I think that affects everybody negatively, especially at this common stage that most founders are in, early stage, if you will, is the biting up more than you can chew. And I think you guys both said it really well. Deducing what feedback is relevant, what's going to be valuable and add value to the product moving forward, or deciding, hey, this is a cool idea, this is good feedback from the market, but we're going to set this aside for maybe a year or 5 years from now. And it's really important to deduce the difference, because sometimes when you do kind of bite off more than you can chew, the quality of work goes down, it slows you down, and then you end up working in a million different directions, and you lose sight of the common and initial goal, which can kill you in a few weeks, as we're all aware of. So definitely that organizational structure and deciding and understanding what needs to be focused on, what is conducive to us today, and what's not a bad idea, but we're going to save this and put this on the back burner for 12 months or 36 months or what have you. Definitely important, especially in the early stages. And so leads me kind of into my next question, a little bit more surface level, and this could be for either of you, but what excites us the most about the future of natural language processing and large language models? How do you see these fields evolving in the next 5 to 10 years? Maybe alongside some of this feedback you're getting that you're putting on the side.
Jerica, do you want to take this first?
I would say I can't really say much from the tech side just because I don't have technical expertise. So I don't want to be spilling the wrong stuff. But I would say in terms of maybe AI or like large language model in general for like a general audience, I would think it will be more widely accepted to like people, like even businesses day to day. People will be using it, even like your smartphone. I can foresee it that it might be a good 50% of AI stuff inside your smartphone. You never know what happened. And I think it's just only going to get better with like continuous improvement on like from the foundational model standpoint of view. And that also allows people to, you know, easily create something of their own, especially right now with the whole concept with AI. I would say it's still very fresh for the large majority of people. Like people are still trying to get their hands gripped on it. You know, like if we consider it like a baby journey, I would say we're only maybe in month 3 of it. You know, like we're not ready yet. So there's still a lot of learning, a lot of room for growth as well in terms of businesses to adapt, or like even for like day-to-day users to start getting the hang of using AI.
Absolutely. And real quick, in terms of your guys' like outreach and your go-to-market strategy and your business development, are you guys seeing more resistance from like older generations when trying to initiate these conversations about AI? And how are you handling those? How are you managing the objection handling, if you will?
Actually, this is a really interesting question because our users right now that I think about it, it's actually made up of quite a wide spectrum of audience. So we have some people that are like, you know, our age, some people are slightly older, and, you know, the older generations, of course. For the older generations, I think they are also starting to learn that, you know, AI is just going to be part of us one day. So it's like, there's this common saying in life, you snooze, you lose. So it's better to ride on that train early. So we actually have some users who are using us for even their working profession, for like market research, or because most of the like people in the older generation tend to hold like leadership positions. So they might use that to do like presentation report, or like, you know, using it as a thought partner to bounce idea for like product strategy, product vision. So it's very like high level thinking thing. And we see a lot of success in them.
Fantastic. Yeah, no, and I think initially my company's pivoted since then, but we were doing something similar to you, semantic search, enterprise search, a long time ago. And given I'm leading our business development and our go-to-market strategy, I was getting a lot of resistance from people of that older generation. And it was difficult kind of mountain to climb, especially when there is a lot of objection and a lot of unknown about AI. And now it's been, you know, almost a year, more than a year now, since the onslaught of AI into the mainstream, if you will. And I think the anxiety of AI is going to replace us is being alleviated a little bit. It's more so people who use AI are going to replace those who maintain resistance towards it entirely, right? And I would imagine that's something you guys have to talk about pretty often.
Totally. Yeah, we're definitely on the side where, you know, AI is not going to replace humans. I know there are a lot of startups out there, you know, on that side of the camp. But I think, I'm not sure if this is familiar, but we're leaning towards like the Centaur model when it comes to, you know, like the cyborg versus Centaur. So I think essentially in the Centaur model, it's like you have the human as the pilot, and then, you know, you have the AI is sort of like a crutch, like a mental crutch or something like that, sort of like an augmenter, right, to augment their workflow and everything. And then for cyborg, it's like, you know, replacing parts of the human function and all that stuff. So definitely leaning towards like the Centaur model here.
Yeah, absolutely, and it's a better talking track and more beneficial for you guys in you know what you're trying to accomplish, obviously, in your GDM. So, guys, one main element that I like to touch on here at the Results Loading podcast is overcoming adversity during the come up and building phase of your startup. Can you talk about a moment, if you're okay with it, when nothing was going your way potentially? You almost felt like giving up, and how you pushed through that feeling to end up where you are now?
Maybe I can share one, and then Wilson can share one on this. I think it was not too long ago where I think at that point in time we knew that we had a very solid product, that it was working, but I think the challenge was finding that initial first few customers that really believe in us. So like I think that's where every startup have to go through that. And that point in time, it was, I would not say it was like fully discouraging, but it's more of like, oh, are we not heading in the right direction? But like and truth to be told, at that point we were also building for like people that we didn't really understand the market for. So like we're talking about like lawyers, because clearly Wilson and I were not lawyers. I mean, I wish we would, but like we are not. And then so that made us realize like it's okay. It's not our fault. Every startup have to go through that, I think, but it's more of like, how do we overcome that? And then that's when we took a step back, and then we really thought through like, what our life values are, what we believe in life. And I think I came to that realization that, especially even in knowledge management, a lot of tools these days have a like a notion of how things should be not managed. But to me, I feel like knowledge is a very interesting concept, because people have different like learning abilities. So some people will like certain kind of tools, some people won't, and that's fine. But like what we're trying to do at Beloga is to create something that's actually really personalized. And also that's where we're hitting, like long-term wise as well, where it's actually adaptive, because we also want to target like neurodiversity, because we believe, especially these days where people in the society in general is becoming more open to have such conversations as well. We as a platform or like startup should also start embracing such positive stuff as well. And so therefore we decided to take it as more of like a leap of faith, learning through all these different struggles, realizing like don't build for something that you don't know for, and then using that as a lesson learned to overcome the adversity, and right now tapping back on your roots and then finding out what's next. And that's where we are.
Well, and then I'll share one real quick as well. So to add on to Jerica's point here, I think at the early stages, like we were going through something what people call mentor whiplash. Basically, like we were being told by founders, by investors, by all sorts of people that you should go to this market because this market is more lucrative. You shouldn't be building a B2C SaaS because those are hard to retain users. So focus on B2B. There's a lot of like different kinds of advice, and I think that sort of strayed us onto so many different paths as well to go and experiment with a lot of these things. I'm honestly not like regretful though of going through that entire process, because it did teach us a lot of important lessons there. Not to take everything basically take everything with a pinch of salt. And I think it all honestly boils down to having that grand vision of yours. It's also that one thing that, that is hard for competitors to copy. It's basically your vision, and how you get there can be very different from a competitor.
And just to chime in on that, like I think not suffering from mental whiplash, and also just what I was sharing earlier about having that domain expertise, or like having that solid conviction and really tapping into your strengths, that I think was what we had to learn the hard way from to overcome the adversity, which is where you see our Beloga is today.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more, guys, and I think you both make some really, really fantastic points. I mean, ultimately it comes down to tough skin, maintaining the vision, and trusting your gut feeling, right? I mean, I can't tell you how much I agree with the mentor whiplash, and you have people who think they know more than you. Maybe they do, maybe they don't, who are telling you how to run your business in the direction that you should go with your company. And no, you need to pivot to this market, or no, this is more niche. And it's like, at the end of the day, you guys are the ones who created Beloga. You guys are the ones who kind of had the inspiration to see the vision and you have to go out and execute. Mentorship is fantastic. I'm in no way or shape or form like putting mentorship down, but if you're getting to a point when you're getting that mentor whiplash, you need to just stick to your wits, like you both mentioned, and have trust and faith in the vision. And also in this world, it's a lot about gut feeling. You could have 9, 10, 20, 100 investors tell you it's a bad idea, and it doesn't matter, because all you need is your first customer, which obviously creates a domino effect, which leads to more revenue, which then leads to VCs, and things end up working out okay. It's an interesting world, as you guys know, but just hanging in there, and like I said, having that faith and that, being true to yourself almost. I know it sounds cliche, but in this world, it's really important. And I think you guys both articulated that really well, because it's a very real thing, especially in the startup world.
Oh, thank you for the nice words. Yeah, I couldn't agree more with all of this.
100%.
Yeah, guys. So want to switch gears a little bit real quick and get into the more positive side of building startups and why we do this. For the both of you, what does success mean to you away from the metrics, the milestones, the revenue, the customers? Why are we doing this? What does success mean for you at the end of the day, away from the success that you can see on paper, for example?
Oh, this is a really, really interesting one. I think I can try to go first for this, and then Wilson, you can try. I think for me, success, like for the longest time ever, I think ever since growing up, I realized something, that what made me unlock a lot of like opportunities in like different places where I couldn't get access to, just because, we're not there yet, that kind of stuff, was through being reading a lot, actively reading, being educated, knowing a lot of like stuff in the world, I guess. So, and to me, success is more where I see one day I'll be able to do that for like people as well. So one day hoping to like, set up my own foundation, and then really giving back to education, because I really feel like education unlock a lot of opportunities for people. So, putting startup, all that aside, I think my biggest dream one day is to always give back to the roots that helped me unlock doors that I couldn't get.
Absolutely. I don't think there's any arguing with that. Wilson, what about you?
And for me, funny enough, I just thought of like the reason why, like I'm really so fascinated about like, helping people find things. Like, as Jerica is talking here. Basically, I think I'm a huge Marvel fan, to be honest, and I think you kind of see like where I'm going at already. Like I really enjoyed like watching like Jarvis, like provide answers and all that in just a split second whenever Tony Stark's asking for answers, right?
Right.
Or even asking it to analyze things and all that, and it's able to do that. I think for me, success would be having that one day, where you have like an AI assistant or something that we don't know what that is yet, but something that can sort of augment your intellect on a day-to-day basis, sort of like a really helpful smart assistant.
And it's certainly a special thing that you're in a position to potentially make that happen someday. So, there's a why right there.
Fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed. Well, guys, I'm rooting for you. And last question before we wrap up here, Wilson kind of touched on this earlier in the aha moment, area of building. But can you guys share with us one Beloga aha moment where you guys physically felt like things were starting to change for the better within the company? Was there a specific moment or idea that at the end of the day you kind of left the office thinking, man, we're certainly onto something here, and this was a great decision to go out and start this?
I can say one, and then Wilson will say one. When I first managed to convince someone to pay a lifetime plan, I think that was interesting.
Yeah, lifetime. Oh, really? So you had someone sign up, like you're doing lifetime contracts essentially.
Yeah, so like a quick story was basically because before Beloga was open up to public, we had to open up the public partially because of product hunt as well. But so in the early stage of Beloga, it was a very like closed beta kind of things where you have to fill up a form and then you hop on an onboarding call and you don't get to touch the product at all until you pay. But this person immediately after the call was like, "Do you have a lifetime plan?" And to me, I was like, "Oh, wow." I didn't even think of that number. So to me, I was just like, I'll just throw any number and then see where it sticks. And the number I stuck with was a slight compromise with him, but was way more than what we expected. So to me, that was the biggest aha moment. How about you, Wilson?
Yeah, something you guys created that someone is willing to pay for. I mean, I had a buddy and a colleague of mine on the podcast, and he's an artist, and I asked him the same question, and he said, one day I was walking down the street, and somebody that I don't know, a complete stranger, was wearing one of my shirts, and it's like, wow, like someone paid money for something I created. It's a special thing, you know. I mean, we all could be employed somewhere and doing our own thing in the corporate world or what have you, and that's fine. But the fact that you literally sat down, took the risk, invented something, created it, and someone is willing to pay money for it, I mean, it's definitely one of the best feelings ever, right? Especially in this world.
For
Very
sure.
nice feeling. For me, I would say, I mean, it's sort of coming from a position of pain, I think, for a lot of developers out there. But basically, like for me, that aha moment was when, um, someone was uploading like 1,000 over files. They were book sized, like PDFs. So we're talking like 700 pages or something like that into our service. And yeah, there was a genuine user, by the way, not not any kind of bot attack or something like that. So they were genuinely like, looking to upload a whole bunch of documents to derive like insights for their own research project or something like that. And yeah, like, although it was a little bit painful to resolve that really, really quickly, it was really fun for me, like to know that, someone's actually using the product, trying to hammer at it, to get the full use out of that.
Absolutely, guys. Well, that's fantastic. I'm really glad that you guys are where you're at now, and you've made all the progress and the traction that you had. I'm really really loving the idea, love the direction, love where you guys have come from and where you're at. Like I said, at the moment, and I'm rooting for you guys. So really appreciate you guys being on. Is there anything else you guys want to mention before we wrap up here?
The last thing I guess is check out Beloga and obviously support Prosperous AI as well.
Appreciate that. Yeah, no, we'll make sure everyone's able to check out Beloga. We'll leave URL and everything on the video. And guys, fantastic. Thank you so much for being on. This has been a pleasure talking to the both of you. Our first two co-founder podcast ever. So a little bit of results loading podcast history here. I'm glad it was the two of you. And we'll stay in touch. And again, appreciate you guys being on.
Thank you for having us. It's been a fantastic time. I really enjoyed it. It was something really refreshing for the week.